You have been lied to about sleep, and not by one person, but by an entire industry that needed you to believe that your exhaustion was somehow a character flaw, because a character flaw is something you can sell a fix for. I'm Masha. I am the founder of Restful Sleep, and I'm a certified CBT-I practitioner, meaning cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, which is the gold standard research backed treatment for chronic sleep problems. I myself spent years lying in bed at night telling myself to just fucking relax, as if relaxing was a task that I was failing at. But it's not. And I want to burn down the story that told you that it was, using the actual research, not just my lived experience. So, somewhere along the way, sleep got filed in the same drawer as things like diets or discipline or getting up at 5 a.m., something you either have the willpower to do or you don't. So, when it falls apart, the conclusion writes itself. You weren't consistent enough, or you need a stricter routine, a better environment in your bedroom, a more disciplined version of yourself. And that type of story sells a lot of blackout curtains, but it does not help a single person sleep. And it's not exactly what the science says is actually happening. So, sleep is the output of three systems. And not one of these systems cares about how hard you try. The first two are well established in sleep science. Sleep pressure builds mechanically across your day, driven by a molecule called adenosine, which accumulates in your brain the longer you're awake. Your circadian rhythm is your internal clock running roughly on 24 hours, synced mostly by light exposure. And together, these two make up what sleep researchers call the two process model, which was developed decades ago and is still the foundation of how we understand when sleep exactly happens. But there is a third system, and this is the one that gets left out of the wellness conversation or well being conversation entirely, even though it's the one driving most chronic insomnia. And it's your nervous system's baseline arousal level. This isn't a theory I made up to sound more interesting. There's a substantial body of research called the hyperarousal model of insomnia that was built over decades by sleep researchers. What they found was that using measurements such as your heart rate variability, cortisol levels, and 24-hour metabolic rate, is that people with chronic insomnia show measurably elevated physiological arousal, not just at night, but across the entire day. Their nervous system is running hotter around the clock, whether they're trying to sleep or not. And separately, researcher called Michael Perlis developed what's called the neurocognitive model of insomnia, showing that people with chronic sleep trouble develop something called conditioned cortical arousal. So basically, your brain learns to associate the bed itself and the act of trying to sleep with heightened alertness. And that is not something that you can think your way out of. This is more a learned pattern in your nervous system, and it responds to nervous system tools and not to more discipline. So here's the part that should actually make you angry. None of these three systems respond to effort. And the third one, the arousal one, gets worse the harder you try to override it. Because effort lives in the prefrontal cortex. Conscious directed goal chasing. Sleep needs that part of you to quiet down and hand control over to something older and slower. So the second you're actively trying to make sleep happen, you're running the exact machinery that has to go quiet for sleep to start. This is why just relax is one of the most useless sentences in the English language. Relaxing on command is still a command. You end up standing guard over your own attempt to let go, watching yourself try to let go, which is just another form of being awake. And this is exactly the mechanism that the hyperarousal research is describing. Your body isn't broken. It's stuck in a loop that willpower cannot interrupt because willpower is the loop. So what I want to say with this is that you were never bad at this. There's no such thing as a bad sleeper. You were handed an impossible set of instructions and blamed for not following it. You don't get to control sleep directly. You get to work on the conditions underneath it, and that's a different game entirely. For sleep pressure, what impacts it most is how you spend your day, how much movement you have, how much daylight exposure you have, and not draining the pressure you built with a nap that you might not have needed. So for your circadian rhythm, that is consistency in your habits and light. So the basic idea is that you get morning light into your eyes first thing in the morning, and your evening light is low and dim. And also what's important for the circadian rhythm is awake time that is consistent even on nights or even on days when your bedtime kind of slides. Now, for nervous system arousal, that's the real work, and that's the one backed by the strongest clinical evidence. CBT-I, the approach that I'm trained in, has been shown in comparative research to outperform sleep medication for long-term insomnia outcomes, specifically because it targets this conditioned arousal pattern rather than just sedating you through it. And it's not a discipline project. It's retraining your nervous system's relationship to your bed and to nighttime itself. And that does take different tools than a stricter routine ever could. So if you have spent years thinking that your sleep problem was some sort of personal failing or a deficiency in your willpower or your consistency, I need that story to end today. There is real published research showing your nervous system can be in a measurably different state than a good sleeper's day and night, whether or not you're trying to fix it. So you weren't failing at sleep. You were trying to control a system that was never yours to control in the first place. In the next video, I am going all the way into that third system, the nervous system piece, because that's where the actual transformation happens for anyone who's been stuck in insomnia for longer than, let's say, a few weeks. And if any part of this resonated, and especially the part about trying so hard to relax that you end up stressed and wired instead, tell me in the comments. That tells me exactly what to go deeper into next. So if you're ready to stop managing the surface and actually work with what's underneath it, there is a full breakdown, a self-paced course, and free resources on the link below. I will see you in the next one.